what's up, y'all? This is Claire Dunn, and you're listening to TNC Radio.live.
Welcome in TNC Radio.live. It's Monday night. We're live on December the 19th, 2022. I'm Tom Kelly, and this is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Hey, Dr. Chris, how are you tonight?
Good evening. Hey, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing peachy. All's good. Yeah,
it's the season. Not for peaches, of course, but it is the season to be jolly. And it's Christmas week.
Yes. Yeah. Less than a week now before Christmas.
What's Christmas about for you and yours? Do you have any family traditions or things that you engage in this time of year?
We do. This year is going to be a little bit different because my kids, who are all grown and they all have kids of their own, they have family issues on the other side of the family. Sick parents and very sick, cancer and heart conditions and those kinds of things. So this year we're kind of taking a back seat to everything. It's like, you guys set up the plans, tell us where to show up, and we'll show up, and don't worry about it. It's kind of different than from when I grew up. We had very repeatable for close to 20 years Christmas traditions that my parents kind of laid down the law when they got married and said, we don't travel for Christmas. And so we had Christmas at home. Never once in my entire childhood were we not at our house on Christmas morning. And Christmas Eve and Christmas morning basically were the same every single year, and was wonderful. I mean, it was right out of the Saturday Evening Post playbook with stockings hung by the chimney, and each Christmas Eve Mom would read from the Bible and Dad would read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and we'd open one present, and then usually, even if we did have people coming over, all of the kids would go sleep in one room, but we'd barely sleep at all with excitement all night, and then the next morning we'd all be at the top of the stairs, and we weren't allowed to go downstairs until 7 a.m. But usually by about 5 a.m. we've gathered at the top of the stairs and waited for my father, who would finally get up and walk downstairs and come back to the bottom of the stairs and say, "I'm so sorry, there's nothing here. Apparently Santa didn't make it." And we'd all say, "You're lying, you always say that." But I mean, we did it every year, and every year he did the same thing. And some years he was more convincing than others. Sometimes he'd almost have tears. I know I usually joke about this, but this year it's true. He really didn't show up this time. "Oh, you're lying. Now come on, get out of our way." "All right, well, you can go look, but I'm telling you, you're not going to see anything in there." And we'd all go running into the room and find all of our Christmas presents, and then we'd spend the morning opening presents and eating and opening and eating and opening and eating, and it was wonderful. I can complain about all sorts of things in life, but I can't complain about Christmas traditions growing up. And I've tried to, as much as possible, have similar traditions as we grew up. But like I said, now it's a lot harder with the kids doing their own thing, and the world is more complicated. And as I said, this particular year is even more complicated because some of the kids need, their spouses and so forth, need to be spending time with their parents because this may be their last Christmas with them. And so obviously we have our health, we're doing well, so obviously we don't want to get in the way of any of that. So it's like, you guys do what you need to do, just let us know what you need. And that's kind of our Christmas this year.
If there's one thing that brought so much magic to life, it was the belief in Santa Claus and the reindeers, and that somehow he was going to make it down the chimney, and all these toys and gifts would appear. And I just always I was so excited by that. That was the night of guaranteed insomnia, where I violated every one of the rules of sleep hygiene.
Right.
You're supposed to bring issues to bed. But all night I was just so excited, and I couldn't stand, waiting all night. And then when I finally did fall asleep, I couldn't stay that way. And I was the first one of the 5 kids who would go charging down those stairs and practically do backflips when I saw all the stuff under the tree. And the year that we got the purple Schwinn Stingray bike.
Holy, I had one of those.
Did you really?
Did you have the disc brakes in the back?
Yeah, we had. Yeah, there were no hand brakes. It was all the brakes that you pushed the foot brakes only.
Oh no! I had the hand brakes with disc brakes in the back of my purple Schwinn. Oh, it was awesome. Then I went zipping down the day of Christmas. We're all the kids are outside showing each other their bicycles, and I went zipping down. I want to show everybody about how great my brakes were, and I squeezed the wrong brake. I stopped that front wheel instantly. And guess what happened?
You're in Houston, and while we're doing these Christmas stories, we had friends in Houston, and one year I was riding a bicycle with my friend Sergio, who still lives in Houston. We were going down a hill, and then all the sidewalk turned into rock, and I panicked, and I hit the brake, which was the handbrakes. I never had handbrakes before, and I went flying over the handlebars and landed on both of my wrists. So he couldn't stop, and he crashed, and we both kind of hurt our wrists, and we went at the bottom of the hill. There was a hospital, and so we both went into the hospital, and everybody was laughing at us, and we didn't understand why. And it turns out we were the only people being treated for wrists in there because it was maternity hospital.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were working on the Seventh Truth last time, and that is talking about, of course, our relationships depend on self-empowerment, not enabling others, not trying to change others, but to empower others. And, one of the listeners sent me a text this past week, which I appreciated. And I want to read the text because it's a question that I really need to address on the air. And the question is, aren't ultimatums bad? Said, so in the show, you said that obviously we can't change or control others, but we can change ourselves. But in your 4-point plan, it kind of sounds like an ultimatum has to be given in order to get a person to change their behavior. I thought ultimatums are bad. LOL. Well, I really appreciate that text, as I said before, and I want to address it now. And the first way I want to address it is that we can set ultimatums with people, and we do that routinely. And, another way to say that is establishing a boundary, right? A line in the sand. And boundaries are very, very healthy. And if you think about boundaries, we could say one of the healthiest boundaries that people ever set are set by institutions like banks. I've always appreciated that a bank says, when you sign this contract, we are going to loan you, whatever, $400,000 for your house or whatever they're going to loan you. And then you are going to pay us back at the rate of X dollars every month. And here's how it goes. We will give you 14 days grace period. And on the 15th day, if you have not turned in your monthly stipend, if you haven't met your your quota, your amount for the month, we are going to fine you 5% more than that. And we're going to fine you because you're late with the money. And then if you don't pay in 3 months or 4 months or whatever the contract says, we're going to take your house. And those are boundaries. Those are ultimatums. But notice all the things that they didn't say. They didn't say, if you don't pay by the 15th, we're going to call your neighbors and talk about you behind your back. They don't say, we're going to start nagging you. We're going to threaten you but never follow through. We're going to give you the silent treatment. We're going to give you the biggest guilt trip. And we're going to stop talking to you. You know, they don't do things like that. They just basically say, here's what the boundary is, and they follow through on the boundary. And those are the third and fourth steps of self-empowerment. If you're going to want to take a break anytime soon, I will lead off to remind people what those 4 steps of the self-empowerment, and then bring up a couple of live cases.
This blog.
I'm
from
Shelley
this past
Johnson with
week,
Kathy
of
Tuccaro.
my
You can hear us
practice and
Tuesdays
share,
on TNC
you know, how people
Radio.live.
do these things.
Okay, let's do that. We'll go ahead and take our break now and be back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds. Stay tuned.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNC Radio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNC Radio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Mallard Buildings always gives back to the community. At the recent Night at the Gatsby Gala, which was presented by McNeese to benefit the McNeese Athletic Foundation, Lee Malek donated over $23,000. His generosity and continued support will serve the student athletes, coaches, and support staffs well into the future. Lee Mallet is dedicated to building a better McNeese and a better Louisiana. 5 common health hazards truck drivers face. A healthy lifestyle is often overlooked by most truckers. Due to work conditions in the trucking industry, it's difficult for truckers to live a healthy lifestyle. Living on the road makes it hard for truckers to prioritize their health. Truck drivers have limited access to healthy food, lack of sleep, and exercise. Due to their work and living conditions, truck drivers statistically have more health problems. It's important for truck drivers to be aware of the common health hazards they face. To live a long, healthy life, truckers will have to focus on their health and make a conscious effort to be healthy. Sleep apnea. Sleep is crucial for truck drivers. Lack of sleep can make driving dangerous. A study shows that long-haul truck drivers obtain less sleep than the required amount for alertness on the job. Truckers need a good night's sleep to be fully alert and ready to take on the road the next morning. Getting a good night's sleep is crucial for keeping a truck driver alert and productive. Truck drivers travel several hundred miles each day. To reach their destination on time, they'll have to prioritize sleep so they can be alert and ready. Obesity. When you live in a tiny truck cab and drive for 11 hours a day, it becomes increasingly difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle. As a result, obesity is a terrible problem that American truck drivers face. According to the American Dietetic Association, 86% of truck drivers are obese. Healthy food is hard to come by while driving and working on the road. Truck stops offer greasy, high-calorie food rather than healthy fruits and vegetables. It's important for truck drivers to be conscious of what they eat. There are many other health risks that come with fast food and truck stop food. High blood pressure, also known as hypertension, is a silent killer of both your health and trucking career. A poor diet, smoking, obesity, lack of exercise are causes of high blood pressure. Truckers need to be aware of the causes of high blood pressure and take necessary steps to avoid them. Not only does high blood pressure put your life at risk, it can also disqualify you from driving. Truckers with stage 3 hypertension, that's 180 over 110, are automatically disqualified. Depression. Truck drivers spend a significant amount of time away from home and their loved ones. They also work alone for 11 hours a day. It's not uncommon for truckers to start to develop symptoms of depression. Truck driving's not an easy job. It comes with a lot of stress and anxiety. Depression not only affects a person mentally, it also affects you physically. Depression affects your energy levels and the amount of sleep you get. It can also cause a change in appetite, headaches, and muscle aches. It's important for truck drivers to consider their mental health as well as their physical health. This blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Catch Landline Now every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, along with an encore presentation weekdays at noon, right here on tncradio.live.
And it never did. It really bothered my parents because my brother and sister did. They were younger than me, but I always kept a secret. I did one time start to tell them, and my dad overheard and basically bopped me out of the room and said, "Don't do that." And so I never did. I think that, when they told my brother when he was like 17 or something, this isn't real, you know that, right? But, for me, never actually bought into any of it.
Wow. So who did you think was doing it? Your parents?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. Even though your father was in denial every Christmas morning.
Absolutely. And, so I played the game and enjoyed playing the game and enjoyed watching my brother and sister enjoy it so much, but it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was on the other side. I remember still learning when there was a Santa Claus. It was really hard. It ruined my entire sophomore year of college.
Right.
I had to drop out for a semester Yeah. But my kids figured it out pretty early, and I wasn't going to lie to them anymore. It's like when they told me, I think it started with my daughter with the tooth fairy. And she looked at me and she said, "There isn't really a tooth fairy, Daddy. It's you." And I was like, I don't want to mess this kid up with a face-to-face lie. It's like, you know what? You're right. Congratulations, you figured it out. I've been called worse, but I am the tooth fairy. And from there, it was just a very easy leap to I'm also the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and Elf on the Shelf, and pretty flexible depending on the season. But it ended at 8 for my kids.
Yeah,
so
I think my brother was 8 or 9.
Yeah. I even had a patient figure it out in my office during a session when he was 10. And I thought that was kind of late. But he just started using all this logic. We don't have logic. According to Piaget and his research and his theory, we really start to develop logic around age 8. Prior to that, we don't have the full capacity to use logical thinking. This guy's 10 years old, and he's in my office, and he's going, and really, how does he make all those stops in one night? I mean, he's got to do Europe, he's got to do... And it's like, well, where are you going with this? And he said, you know what? I don't even believe anymore because this is crazy. And I said to him, you know what? Congratulations, you figured it out. It wasn't mine to say, but I wasn't going to tell him that his logic was bad. And he was so proud, and he went out of the session and he told his mother that he didn't believe anymore, and he figured it out. And she wasn't upset; she was proud of him. It's like it's about time. Yeah, it's me. Look at all I've been doing for you. I'm also Santa Claus. So, we were talking about these 4 steps so as to empower ourselves when we can't control other people.
Correct.
And the first step is always, I need to let you know what it's like to be me. Express your feelings in the first person. This is how I feel. And, we're predicating all of this on in relationships with people that we genuinely care about. We could still use these 4 steps, or at least 3 of them, if we don't have a close or a meaningful relationship. But the first step is I want to share with you what it's like to be me. And the second step is I make a specific request. I'm asking you, please don't do this anymore. I'm asking you to do that. And as specifically as you can lay it out, that's what you want from your partner, your child, your best friend, your coworker, whatever it is. This is how it feels to me when you do these things. This is what I'm asking you to do instead. You know, the third step comes down to establishing a boundary. You know, I can't stop you from doing this. We talked last week about if you had a partner who yells, this is how it feels to me when you yell. I feel hurt. I feel embarrassed. I feel humiliated. I'm not going to be in any conversations where I'm being yelled at. I can't do that anymore. So if you raise your voice, I'm going to point it out. Hey, you're starting to raise your voice again. Can you knock it down an octave or two? Because I care about you and I'll listen. But please stop yelling. If that continues, I'm going to leave the conversation. I may have to leave the room. I may have to leave the house. I may have to leave the relationship. But I'm not staying in a conversation where you're going to be yelling at me. And so those are the 4 steps of self-empowerment in that example. So I promise you there was a couple of examples in my practice over the course of the past week. And one of those involved a couple in their 70s, and they've been married, 300 or 400 years now. And they have a great relationship. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of caring. And these people were each other's everything during this whole pandemic. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't do anything. It was all about you and me and you. We are the world to each other. And they did beautifully. They really did splendidly, especially considering that you're the only one I talk to all day long, every day, for a couple of years at least. So the husband has, as many people do, has an issue with hypertension. His blood pressure is elevated. And so he's being treated medically, pharmacologically, taking some medication. And he is asked by his physician to take his blood pressure a couple of times a day and record it and take the medication. And his wife notices he's not complying. He's not doing this. He's not making, she looks at his little journal thing and he hasn't written anything in it in quite some time. So I would say she kind of zoomed through these 4 steps pretty quickly, but she got her point across wonderfully, basically saying, you are my everything, love you to pieces, and I'm frightened. I don't need you to die of a stroke. I don't need you to have, a heart attack or to do anything self-destructive. You're so important to me, and I need you to get on this now. And every day you're to take your blood pressure, because if you don't, I'm going to be on your butt. You're going to have to deal with me saying, did you take your medicine? Where's the reading? What did you? And you know what he said to all of that? He smiled and he said, okay. That was what he said, because he knew she was right. And I reminded the 2 of them that, speaking of Texas, there is a study that goes back probably about 6-7 years now. It's a University of Texas study, I believe. I remember reading it. And the bottom line was married men live longer than single men. And one of the reasons why they do is because their wives serve as a health coach. And the health coach is one who does exactly what this dear lady did. They say, oh, you are going to quit smoking. Oh, you're not going to be drinking like this. Or you got to put that fork down, babe. I love you to pieces, but you don't need to eat another piece of that cake. I'm complimented that you love my cooking, but that's enough. True story. An attorney patient of mine had some chest pain, and his wife said, "We're going to the emergency room." And he said, "No, it's a little chest pain. I'm fine." And she goes, "No, we're going to the emergency room. So you're either going to get in the car with me or I'm going to call 911. He's, all right. So they go to the ER, and the long story short, the emergency room physician says, "Let me tell you about this thing called the widowmaker. The widowmaker is a part of the heart that when it's blocked, people die instantaneously. Yours, let me just say, if your wife didn't make you come in, she would have been a widow. She saved your life by bringing you here today." And the research is very consistent with that. And that is, by the way, that's taking those 4 steps of self-empowerment and kind of mashing them together and saying, look, I love you. You are going to do this or else. And it works because it's predicated upon, don't forget this, that's my wife. She loves me. This is not about anything else except she cares about me. And she's insisting, she draws a line in the sand and says, you're going to do this or else I'm going to do that, whatever that is.
Right.
You know, one of these examples, it was, I'm gonna ride you and then I'm gonna walk you over to the Journal, and if I have to throw the cup on your arm, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to break again?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll do that now.
All right, let's break.
We'll be a short one. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to TNC Radio.live. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. Can we talk about panic attacks? I want to say we, I mean me, I'm going to do all the talking. What is a panic attack? Well, to me, it's a misnomer. Panic does not attack you. A mugger attacks you. Your auntie's chihuahua attacks you. Panic doesn't attack you. Let's begin with what panic really is and where it comes from. Panic is an exaggeration of the body's own stress response. It's preparing you to run or to fight. But what happens is we get a surge of different kinds of hormones in our body, and as a result, the blood flows to the major muscle groups, and the heart starts racing, and the chest gets all constricted, and some people talk about an elephant sitting on their chest. And then there's blood flow to the arms and legs, and there's tingling sometimes, and that's called paresthesia. And some people report that there's an intensification of light and of sound, and all those things happen, and they're scary because it feels like I'm having a heart attack, or like I'm going crazy, or that I'm going to die. And by thinking those thoughts, I make it that much worse. It's pouring gasoline on a fire. So how do we cause these things? I'll share that in the next Mental Health Minute.
You're listening to TNC Radio.live. Remember to tune in to the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. And so, Dr. Cortman, I want to throw one out there at you that I've been peripherally involved in, and I've heard of this happening and just kind of familiar with this idea that a lot of people have tried, and this usually goes to one of the partners drinks excessively and the other one does not, and the one who does not becomes more and more concerned about the one who's drinking so much, and at one point takes this action. They either hide or pour out or give to somebody else or whatever, everything alcoholic in the entire house. The first partner comes home and says, yeah, I'm going to fix myself a drink, and looks all over the house and can't find anything. And that rarely goes the way that you think it's going to go as the person who hid everything or poured it all out or whatever, because instead of hearing the partner say, wow, that's probably a pretty good idea, I've been hitting the sauce a little heavy recently, there's usually screaming and table pounding and crying and, how can you say I have a problem? I don't have a problem. Give me a drink. I'll show you right now. I don't have, it's, it becomes a thing. Thoughts?
Yeah, you're telling an oft repeated story, meaning that it's happening now across the world in different families where well-meaning partners try to stop the drug or alcohol abuse from continuing by doing things to subvert the consumption of the drug or the alcohol. And, it just typically doesn't work. It does not work. And it could backfire dramatically because, you threw out my alcohol and, you're going to pay for it now. Or, this gives me a perfect opportunity to start throwing things across the house because I'm persecuted in my own house and I'm out of here. And that's, I'm playing the victim and using this as an opportunity to go down to Kelly's and do some drinking. When we talk about these 4 steps, one of the things I mentioned in last week's show is that they're all very consistent with and rooted in Al-Anon's 12 steps. And just to review from last week, the 3 C's of Al-Anon is I didn't cause this problem, and I can't control this problem, and I can't cure this problem. And so in Al-Anon, the focus is taking care of me. And figuring out where I want my boundaries to go and deciding what I'll do so that I don't enable my partner. And I may have to put boundaries that were really difficult or uncomfortable. Sometimes people have said, I can't stop you from drinking, but I swear to you, if I know you're drinking and behind the wheel, I will call the police. And you may get a DUI, but I love you enough to do that, and I'll definitely do it if the kids are in the car. That's also true with boundaries like, I can't stop you from drinking, but if you've been drinking, I'm not sleeping in the same bed with you. I don't like how you smell, and I don't like the way you grope me. I feel disrespected. I feel used and unappreciated, and I don't want to be intimate with you after you've been drinking. It turns me off completely. Or honestly, if your drinking continues and you come home like that, I'm just going to leave the house because I don't want to be in the same. People can put their boundaries wherever they think they need them, and lots of times it's, I'm not going to be in this relationship until you're sober. And people can say things like, you need to be sober for a year before I'll, reconcile or attempt reconciliation in this marriage, or even consider dating you again, because I don't like the person you become when you drink, and I can't control you. Again, I don't have the power to control that. So we're always looking at, what is enabling, and how do we, steer away from that? There's some beautiful stories about enabling that I included in my first book, and one of them goes back to the classic UCLA basketball program. Probably the most well-known basketball coach of all time on the college level is a guy named John Wooden. and he had national championship teams at UCLA. I don't know if it was 8 or 10 of them. It was just remarkable, but his teams would win the national championship, and he was known to be a disciplinarian. I mean, his ball players loved him, but he had rules like, we don't do long hair and we don't have facial hair. We're clean-cut gentlemen. And there's an old story that goes back into the 70s and in their heyday, and he had, as he often did, the best basketball player in the country, a gentleman named Bill Walton, who went on to fame in the NBA and as an announcer afterwards. Anyway, Walton was definitely the best player in the country. And first day of practice, he comes in. I don't know if it was his junior year or what year, but he was already the best ball player in the country. And he had long hair, and he had his little scruffy beard going. And Coach Wooden was the gentleman who pulled him aside and said, "Bill, we don't have long hair and we don't have facial hair on this team." And Walton said, "I know, Coach, but I really like it, and I'm going to keep it." He just threw it out there, and Coach Wooden did not miss a beat. He looked him in the eye. He stuck his hand out to shake Bill Walton's hand, and he said, "I admire a man who could stand up for his convictions, and we're going to miss you." And guess who was back in practice the next day with a haircut and a shave?
That's a great story. I love that story.
It is a great story, and it's a great story because he didn't do all those things that we talk about, nagging and pleading and guilt tripping and comparing him unfavorably to other players. Or he just basically said, these are our rules, and really going to miss you because these are our rules. You can't play with. And the point is not about hair or beards or any of that. That's not the point. The point is here's those 4 steps of self-empowerment coming to life and saying, I can't fix you. I can't change you, but I can draw the line in the sand and I can follow through. Much like the bank saying you have until the 15th and then we're going to charge 5%, or, any institution saying these are the rules and here's what we're going to do.
Right.
So back to the original question, you could call that an ultimatum if you want to, but it's more about empowering me. You may continue to drink even after I tell you how it feels to be me when you're drinking and how I don't like the person you become. As soon as I hear your voice change, I can always tell when you've been drinking. I hear the slur and I hear the change, and I don't like how you talk to me after that. I feel disrespected and condescended towards, and you know what? I don't want to be with you when you've been drinking. But I could say all those things and you'll continue drinking, because if you're addicted to alcohol, that's what you're likely to do, is to continue drinking. So I have to work on changing me. I have to say, where's my line in the sand? And then I have to do whatever is necessary. So we were talking about a second example that was in my practice over the past week, actually. And this involves a man whose wife was unfaithful. And she was demonstrating her desire to reach out to other men and be intimate with them over the internet, but also she started to take pictures and do videos and send them to other men, including while she was intimate with her own husband. She videotaped it and sent it to one of the men that she was hooking up with. And when the man found out about this, he was just so humiliated and enraged and emasculated. Imagine you're trying to be intimate with me because I think you love me and want to be with me, and you're filming a porn video and sending it to another guy. How does that feel to be me? That feels awful. It's emasculating. I'm humiliated. I'm embarrassed. I'm enraged. I've never felt worse about myself. And what's the specific ask? That this comes to a stop right away, that you get some help for yourself, because this is intolerable. And then there comes the line, the third step. Where's the line? Where's the boundary? That this can't continue. And if you're unwilling to stop, if you're unwilling to get some help, I have to terminate the relationship. I mean, that's very clear. Because if I don't, what I'm inadvertently doing is I'm enabling you to continue to be abusive to me. I'm saying, even though I might verbally say other things, behaviorally, I'm saying, you can continue to do this because I'll continue to allow it. And even though I might get upset, and even though I might threaten, and even though I might give you guilt trips, and even though I might give you lectures and speeches and all that I do for you, if I stay in a relationship while you're doing that, I am allowing it. We teach people how to treat us more with our behavior than with anything we say.
Yep, absolutely. All right, hey, let's take a break and come back, and we'll put a wrapper on it. I can't believe how fast the time goes when we're together, but another show flying by here. So we'll come back to the last segment. You're listening to TNCRadio.live's Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Stay right there.
The best GPS for truck drivers. Although there's several GPS apps, it's better for truck drivers to rely on a system that's specifically geared toward their type of work. Smartphone apps lack the ability to show truckers the roads that are inaccessible to trucks. Buying the right GPS for trucking can be tricky and overwhelming. To save you from tons of research and reading reviews, the Truckers Network has listed the best GPS devices for truck drivers in 2020. Check out their website. Here's a brief list. Garmin Dezel 580 LMTS. The Garmin Dezel 580 LMTS is an easy-to-use GPS with hands-free Bluetooth and built-in Wi-Fi. It features customized truck routing for the size and weight of your truck. It also provides helpful predictive route warnings for dangerous curves, steep grades, bridge heights, weight limits, and more. You can find nearby hotels, restaurants, and parking with their easy brake planning. This GPS is truly made for the long haul. Other features include customized truck routing, built-in directory of truck and trailer services, easy brake planning, and service history log. The TomTom Trucker 620. The TomTom Trucker 620 is a 6-inch GPS navigation device that allows you to get the most out of your driving time. The TomTom Trucker 620 can connect by Wi-Fi, and that lets you update without a computer. It makes calling and messaging easier by providing hands-free calling and smartphone services. It also provides free real-time traffic updates and truck maps throughout North America. Other features include battery lifetime up to an hour. It reads messages out loud from a smartphone. It's compatible with Siri and Google Now. It has customized truck routing. The Garmin Drive Smart 61 LMTS. This Garmin device makes trucking much easier. The Navigator features a collection of smart features, in addition to easy-to-follow instructions and helpful driver alerts. It also provides hands-free calling, live traffic information, and built-in Wi-Fi. With this GPS device, all you have to do is look up and drive. Other features include voice-activated navigation, Bluetooth calling, select live parking, and a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts up to an hour. Don't forget, you can hear all of our TNC Radio primetime shows again on our podcasts. Just go to tncradio.live/podcasts or search for tncradio.live wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. Happy to have y'all in here with us this evening. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Dr. Cortman, sometimes I wait too late in the program to ask the question. We got to run through the answer. So before we finish this last segment here, tell us how people can learn more about you, get your books, all that kind of good stuff.
SRQshrink.com is one way they can get a hold of me. All the books are on Amazon, and people can see Mental Health Minutes on TikTok. And they can always call me, text me. There are ways to find me if they even just find srqshrink.com.
srqshrink.com. And of course, we play the those TikTok minutes are also part of what you hear sometimes during some of the shows here on tncradio.live. And books available on audiobooks, Kindle, all that kind of good stuff. So those of you who spend your life traveling, very easy. I mean, you can right now download an audiobook, and as soon as this program's over, press play and just keep right on going.
Yeah, unless they're too boring that you would put you to sleep while you're driving your truck. That's not a good idea. Stop.
Okay, so let's jump back in.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking about the unfaithful wife, and the fact that the gentleman has to have boundaries, and most importantly, from the third step, setting the boundary, to the fourth step, which is follow through. If that isn't done behaviorally, the message that he's inadvertently sending is that it's okay with me. I might get upset, but you can keep doing what you're doing because I'm not willing to change anything. And there are many relationships where the enabling person feels very resentful because I'm resenting two people right now. I'm resenting you for taking advantage of me because I'm too weak to do what it is I said I'm going to do. And I also resent me because I don't have the courage, to do what it is I said I was going to do. And you have essentially called my bluff and said, okay, really? You're going to kick me out? Do it. Or you're going to leave? I don't see you going anywhere. And that's humiliating. And it's required, some patients I've worked with over the years, it's required a lot of time and a lot of courage and a lot of efforts. We have research that says that an abused woman from domestic violence may take 4 to 7 times leaving before she's gone for good. Sometimes people have to keep on trying. And, we might leave and then come back, or we might say never again. And then they're back together. All the friends said, oh, thank God you got rid of that guy or got rid of that lady. And 2 weeks later, there we are back together, arm in arm in public. And people are rolling their eyes like, why did you take him back? Well, it's part of the human condition. It's not easy, to follow through on those boundaries. It's not easy to courageously do something that I'm afraid of because I could end up alone. We have research and we don't really need research to tell us what we've known for many years, that women were economically disadvantaged in relationships with men, and they would tolerate a lot of abuse because where were they going to go? 3, 4 kids, and they either didn't work because they were a stay-at-home mom, or they were underemployed and knew that they could not feed their kids if they dared to venture out the door, and so they were essentially tied, as it were, to an abusive relationship. And, it's toxic for the kids. We have research about children witnessing violence at home and how bad it is for them and how it kind of predisposes them to addictions themselves. So my point is, it's a very difficult thing to enact these 4 steps. I state them very simply, like, here, it's all you have to do, 4 steps. But, saying them and laying them out is one thing, but having the wherewithal to follow through behaviorally, to terminate a relationship with somebody that you really love or somebody that you've known for such a long time, you can't even imagine not living with them. But at the same time, their drinking is killing both of you. or their drugging is, I heard a story just today, about a woman whose cards were being compromised, her accounts, and she found out it was a family member stealing lots of money, and it's all about the abuse of fentanyl. And, would somebody really steal from me? We're in the same family together. The answer is, when you're addicted to stuff like this, you would steal from your spouse, your kids, your parents, your brother, your sister. There is no sacred person that you wouldn't steal from, because it's all about what would I do to get my hands on the next fix. I would do anything, that degree of addiction. And so, this person said, can I call and get them in trouble? But I don't really want to. It's like, no, you owe this to them, because they're driving around not only stealing your money, but with the kids in the car. And here's the thing, with a little bit of influence, you can have the judge say, you're going to be in jail or you're going to be in rehab. And that's how people can get clean. So you have to have boundaries like that, Tom. You have to have the line in the sand. You have to have the ultimatum. But know that those things are all useless if they have no teeth. We always need teeth. Again, like the speed limit, if it says 45 and every day I zoom by at 62, it's a useless boundary. It's a useless sign, because nobody's adhering to it and there are no consequences. I'm going to drive as fast as I want, and what are you going to do about it? If the answer is nothing, why would I change my behavior?
Right.
Boundaries require that.
Right.
You're going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing.
Yeah. So I think we always need to understand that the most loving thing we could ever do for someone might be the hardest thing we ever do.
There was a commercial, I don't know if it played all over the United States, but it was big in Missouri when I was growing up. And it would show a confrontation between father and son, mother and daughter, husband and wife. And the question would be asked, is someone you love someone you hate? And it was somebody who was caught up in an addiction, and and here's what you can do. You can call this number and we're going to help you out, and so forth and so on. But I always thought it was a very powerful commercial.
Yeah, I never saw that, but that's what happens. You end up hating the behavior of someone you love whenever they're under the influence.
Right.
And boy, it's disturbing when I know that as soon as I go out of the room, you're in my wallet taking money so you can, further your addiction.
Yep.
It breaks all the trust in the relationship, and it makes me not only want to protect myself, but retaliate against somebody who's hurting me, and I don't want to hurt someone I love. So there's all these mixed feelings.
Yeah.
And this is not a good time to turn the other cheek. It's a good time to say there need to be consequences always about getting help.
And with that, we're going to have to stop because we're out of time ourselves, and we'll be